When this broke loser finds himself summoned to another world, he must find a way to make money quick or else he will die starving. This is an isekai we've never seen before. Well, that part may be a lie. This story begins with Takeru Kamishiro, an average ugly-looking salaryman whose life is as boring as it can get. Wake up, go to work, come home, watch boring news on TV, sleep, and repeat. However, one particular night, as Takeru is watching TV, he suddenly gets presented with an opportunity to do something interesting instead by the god who is in charge of the solar system. The god shows Takeru a planet called Medeus that apparently has this problem of civilizations dying out every now and then. Because the god is in charge of planet Medeus, it is his duty to help the planet nourish. However, he cannot directly influence anything as a cosmic entity, so he wants Takeru to do it instead by becoming Medeus's new messiah to greatness. Once God explains this plan to Takeru, Bro becomes overwhelmed as he's just an ordinary salaryman with zero real talents. Plus, he mentions that he needs to get back to work or his boss might fire him. However, God reveals that the moment he brought Takeru to this realm, he had already died in the real world. So if he doesn't take this opportunity, his soul is going to end up vanishing away. This is shocking news to Takeru, and once he calms himself down, he realizes that he has no other option but to do what God wants from him. Once Takeru agrees, God gives Takeru some special powers before sending him to Medeus. He first adds magic to Takeru's stats, specifically maxed out mana, and asks Takeru if he has anything else he'd like to have. Takeru, being a cultured man, wonders if he should request God to bestow him with a harem. God reads Takeru's thoughts and promises the degenerate that he will meet many beauties in his journey and will get a chance to catch 'em all. Anyway, God adds a special search ability to Takeru's stats, and after adding several other convenient skills like global language and various resistances, he also includes a handy bag so that Takeru can keep all of his stuff in there. He then doesn't even give the guy a proper goodbye before sending him off abruptly to Medeus. As Takeru opens his eyes, he finds himself sitting beside a tree in a lush forest. He gets up, and the first thing in his mind is to go look for a place where people live. As he wanders around the forest long enough, he discovers a village in the distance. He hasn't eaten since coming here, so he has become hungry, but he isn't sure if anyone will offer him free food there. That's when he suddenly remembers that God has given him a special search ability that can help him gather materials, which he can then sell to make money in this world. So, excitedly, Takeru shouts out loud, "Activate search magic," but much to his own embarrassment, nothing happened, leaving him wondering if he has cast the spell the wrong way. He reluctantly writes down the words of his spell on the ground in Japanese, and this time, it works. Many holographic signs appear near objects, like clover, diamond, hearts, showing the location of the materials. Takeru uses scan on one of the materials and gets the information about it. For instance, the system shows him that the moon night grass is a yellow flower that blooms under a crescent moon and is rank B in terms of rarity. Since it's rare, Takeru takes it and puts the item in his handy bag. He then moves on to collect many other items, but all of them turn out to be low rank. The one thing he figures out is that the clover sign is a symbol of flowers and herbs. The love sign symbolizes life, while the diamond sign means minerals, rocks, etc. Now that Takeru's set, he heads off to the village to sell his items and meets with the village guard, Marlowe, at the gate, introducing himself as a wandering traveler. Since he's super tall, the guard asks him if he's a knight or a swordsman, but Takeru explains he's just a gatherer merchant who sells materials. Hearing that Takeru is a gatherer specialist, Guard Marlowe shows him the way to the general store, and on the way there, Takeru blushingly greets the villagers staring at him in confusion. After entering the general store, Takeru shows his items to the shopkeeper, who's impressed. Assuming Takeru is a specialist at gathering, the shopkeeper requests him to gather mithril ore from a mountain nearby. He also buys all of the stuff Takeru brought here for 300,000 raves, which is equivalent to $20,000. Bro can't believe that he got instantly rich, but he's hungry for more, so he takes the job regardless of the risks he might face on the way to the mountain. But before heading to the mountains, he takes a breather for the night and goes to a local inn. In his hotel room, a maid comes to him offering room service and gives him the bad news that they don't have baths here because only nobility can afford such nobility. Takeru, however, finds a workaround method to get himself cleaned and uses cleansing magic that instantly cleans his body. Still, Takeru feels unsatisfied because, come on, nothing in the world can beat a good long bath. As Takeru gets his first mission in his strange city, he decides to give it a go. As he journeys down, he uses his search to check for several goodies on his way and trust him to take each of them as he goes. His journey is taking him to the Forest of White Trees, popularly called the Forest of Ancient Dragons. He is gradually getting used to this life, and once more, he uses the search and sees a diamond sign. That is the first time he is seeing a diamond sign, and this definitely means something great is there. Without considering the risk, he leaps through the leaves and checks. He sees a dead body, in fact, a rotting one. He assumes that the warrior must have met his doom while fighting. Although he is scared, since it is a bad scene, he returns to check again. He sees a family amulet beside the warrior, and the amulet has no rank. Regardless, he takes it and finds a letter inside. It is a letter from the warrior's sister, thanking him for all he has done for their sick father and pleading with him to come home no matter the cost. Well, the man can't come home again, but the least Takeru can do in that condition is give the man a burial. He digs a hole, buries the man there, and says a short prayer. Before the sun goes down, he finds a place to sleep. He activates the barrier magic to cover himself for the night, then uses the stones he has found to make fire. In that strange land, Takeru mixes some leaves in a pot to make his first dinner, unaware of what the product of that attempt will be. Well, that is called Takeru's soup, and when he tastes it, he is elated at how good it is. The following day, he continues his journey and gets closer to the end of the forest. He uses his search to find more special items he could take and wonders why he can't find any ore there, as the man had predicted. Another thing amazes him, the fact that he can't find any monsters either. Unlike what the man had said, he wonders if the monsters are running away from him because he stinks, but that would be a good thing, as long as he remains safe. He starts running toward the end of the forest, because he is excited that he will get there soon. To his shock, there is a huge division between the mountains. Since he isn't prepared for it, and with the way he is running, he finds it difficult to control himself, and he falls down. Anxious, he calls for every magic he can use so he will fly, and lucky him, he lands in the cave safely. He uses his search to find valuables in the cave and sees several ores, which he takes. However, he realizes he hasn't found any mithril, which is his real mission, so he enhances his search again. This time, he finds mithril, but before he goes nearer, the cave starts shaking. He sends an explosion toward that part of the cave and scatters the mithril for capturing. He takes the ones he finds there, but they are just a few. Before he finds more, the cave shakes again. He sure has guts, because instead of running out of that place, he takes his light and continues his journey into the ancient cave. As he walks farther, he sees clean water, the cleanest water he has seen in his world, let alone in this one where there is no water for bathing. He touches it and scans it, then finds out that it is underground magic element water of the SS rank. That is the most valuable thing he has seen in that world, and he sure won't go without taking a taste of it. He reads in the scan that the water belongs to the ancient dragon of the underworld, which makes him wonder if a dragon is indeed there. But he is audacious, so he stays. Well, a dragon is there. His power has woken the dragon up, and the dragon screams to know who he is. However, Takeru is too distracted to hear his voice. Angrily, the dragon comes out. Water splashes on his body, but he stands still. He figures the dragon is angry at him, so he bows down in apology and begs. He has bowed a lot while working in his real life. Little did he know he would still bow for a dragon. He introduces himself to the dragon as human and apologizes for disturbing him. The dragon also introduces himself as Voldius and asks who Takeru is. To him, Takeru's mana was enough to wake him up. meaning Takeru's mana is on par with his own. Takeru doesn't want that praise. Regardless, Voldius, whom Takeru has nicknamed Vol, asks Takeru for a favor. He reveals that because of the stagnancy of the water, his child has refused to hatch. So he wants Takeru to use his mana to hatch the egg. In return, he reveals some mithril mana and offers to give it to Takeru. The offer seems great, especially considering how expensive the reward is. However, Takeru doesn't know how to hatch the egg. Vol advises him to put his mana inside it, and Takeru also calculates that since it is an egg, he can heat it up. He does that, and suddenly a strange power overshadows him. He hears Vol laughing out loud and gets scared, wondering if Vol intentionally did this so he would die. He falls into the water and drowns. He is angry that he has just gotten a second chance at life and hasn't even had the chance to know this world because he has met his doom. Just as he closes his eyes, a figure stands in front of him. He wonders if it is the god again, but it doesn't look like the god he saw earlier. The creature comments that when a person sees a dragon, they either run or faint, but Takeru is too audacious. A drop of him into that world is enough to destroy the way the world is. He consoles himself that since Takeru wants a cute partner, he will just get one. Takeru's eyes close, and he assumes it is death, but he wakes up later. In relief, he looks around and sees Vol there. He also hears the sound of a baby and wonders why Vol isn't speaking well. Suddenly, a baby dragon jumps at him and starts licking his body. The dragon is dirty, so he pushes him away. Vol tells him to name the baby, and after some thought, he chooses the name Black. Vol asks him to take the dragon away, but he wonders why Vol would let a stranger take his child. Regardless, Vol says Takeru is strong enough to care for Black. He gives him the mithril he came for and returns to the water. Seeing that he has no choice but to remain with Black, he cleans the baby well and asks if he is ready to begin the gathering journey with him. So Takeru, in a strange land, now has a dragon. Takeru heads outside the cave with Black mounted on his shoulder. Seeing the outside world for the very first time, Black flies around excitedly while Takeru wonders when he should head back, as it's almost nighttime. Since it's naturally dangerous to travel at night, Takeru decides to set up camp here and begins preparing for it. He brings out his handy bag to get stuff for the campsite when he notices that his bag is filled with that SS-ranked mana water, making him realize that earlier when Voldius performed weird magic on the bag, he had imbued it with the special water. But why, you may ask? Actually, this magic water is essential for raising dragon children, and once Takeru learns that through the system menu, he feeds a glass of the magic water to Black. After gulping it down, Black gives a share to Takeru, which is a sign of companionship. Not wanting to disrespect this kid on its first day in Medeus, Takeru drinks the water but finds its contents to be nothing out of the ordinary. Moving on, he figures out a way to conjure magic stones all by himself and then uses a fire stone to light up the campfire. After several hours of cooking, he makes meat soup for both himself and Black, and both the adventurer and his dragon companion enjoy a mouthful. Before going to sleep, Takeru asks Black a rather serious question. Black, you sure you won't feel lonely being away from your dad? B thinks for a second before hugging Takeru, making him realize that perhaps this little dragon considers him its parent. Takeru is truly happy to have gotten such a cute and wholesome partner on his first day in this magical world. Out of curiosity, he checks Black's stats and finds out that it's a highly skilled ancient dragon already at rank B. Takeru can't believe that this tiny little hatchling is stronger than him, which makes him feel more responsible as a parent. The next morning, Takeru climbs back up to the surface, but the forest from yesterday no longer looks weird. This makes him suspicious for a second before he's like, hey, whatever. As an aspiring gatherer, he uses his search skill to collect more herbs, when suddenly Black, scared for its life, hides behind him. Takeru becomes wary and detects that several monsters are coming his way. Before he can see what type they are, another monster, a rock falcon, comes from behind and unleashes a deafening roar. It's a C-ranked monster. However, Takeru isn't intimidated at all since this bird looks like a toy compared to the ancient dragon Voldius. Instead of getting scared, Takeru expresses his desire to barbecue the monster's legs. But first, he needs to defeat it. He summons a shield as a defensive measure, then launches 3 ice spikes at the bird, striking it down. The other monsters make their way over, but Takeru is glad because more monsters mean more free food. He uses speed and hardening magic to boost his power, then literally beats the crap out of all the monsters without using any weapons at all. After the battle, he gets busy collecting the monster loot when more monsters approach. Takeru finds this rather troublesome, stating that at this rate, it's going to take him days to get back to the village. Black tries to help by carrying Takeru mid-air, but the kid isn't strong enough, so Takeru uses reduction magic to reduce his weight. This causes them to get launched high into the sky, and when Black realizes it, he unintentionally releases Takeru. Thankfully, the protagonist makes a safe landing through the trees. Anyway, they continue on their way back to the village, and while on the way, Takeru discovers a tree branch from his handy bag. It's an SS rank Yggdrasil tree branch, which makes Takeru wonder why God or whoever placed this item inside his bag. He plays around with it when suddenly Black blows its mana breath on it, causing it to activate and turn into a magic staff. With another powerful item unlocked, it's time for the protagonist to take on a real challenge. He hears a monster's growl from deep inside the forest, and normally, a sane person would want to avoid going in that direction. However, Black rushes off toward the sound, and Takeru follows behind as they both find an injured elf girl sitting beneath a tree. Takeru asks the elf girl if she was attacked by a monster or something, but she replies in the negative. At that moment, her stomach growls loudly, and that makes the protagonist realize that the growl he heard earlier didn't come from a monster. It came from this girl, who claims she hasn't eaten for the past 3 days. She begs the adventurer for some water, and after finishing Takeru's entire water bottle, her lifeless face becomes full of life again. She wholeheartedly thanks Takeru before going back to being in pain again, as she's still starving. Fortunately for her, Takeru has a sandwich in his bag. He gives it to her, and the taste is apparently so good that she becomes Super Saiyan. Now that the girl is no longer starving, Takeru asks her why she ran out of food in the first place, since they're not very far from the village. The girl tries to explain, but Takeru figures she's just really bad at adventuring and didn't pack her stuff properly. She tries to argue with him, but bro with his El Riz covers her mouth, stating that she smells like Feastable's chocolate milk drink. The elf girl can't believe she was disrespected like that. Even though this guy basically saved her life, she doesn't want to deal with him anymore, so she takes off without even saying goodbye. In any case, Takeru leaves the forest when he spots a carriage in the distance. The carriage horse is a unicorn, but judging from its low rank, I'm guessing unicorns aren't rare in an isekai world. The merchant on the carriage offers Takeru a ride back to the village, as he and his family are heading there as well. Takeru gladly accepts the offer and gets on the carriage. The kids annoy Takeru, so he tries to scare them off by saying he might be a bandit in disguise. But the kids aren't afraid, as they're certain Takeru doesn't have any ill intentions. How are they so sure, you may ask? Well, they have a magic bell with them that goes off anytime something dangerous comes near. Takeru is amazed, but not as amazed as the others when they find out that this adventurer has a dragon-type pet as his companion. The merchant asks what type of monster Takeru's pet is, and Takeru, hiding the fact that it's an ancient dragon, tells the merchant that his pet is a black dragon hatchling. According to the merchant, only dragon knights or dragon riders get to have dragons as companions, so they find it weird that this seemingly harmless guy has such a potentially dangerous beast at his disposal. They find it even weirder when they learn that this guy actually hatched the dragon from an egg. Takeru realizes he'll become the center of attention if he spills any more beans, so he shuts down the topic and stays absolutely quiet till midnight. They don't manage to reach the village and decide to set up camp nearby for the night. Takeru uses light magic and sets up a defensive barrier to keep monsters from coming near. The merchant family isn't sure if his simple magic will work, so Takeru assures them that even if a monster comes, his companion Black will alert him beforehand. Learning that, the merchant family feels reassured, and it seems their trust in dragons is really off the charts. The lady, Eliza, offers to prepare dinner for everyone, but Takeru interrupts her, wanting to cook dinner himself. Apparently, the one and only recipe in his cookbook is meat soup, but thankfully, it's going to be the first time the merchant family gets to try it. Anyway, Takeru brings out the ingredients from his handbag, and watching him pull out items from another dimension, the kids are once again amazed. They ask Takeru if he's an exceptionally talented mage or something, but he assures them he's pretty mediocre and that it's only his bag that's special. An hour later, he cooks 3 meals: a steak, his regular meat soup, and a mushroom vegetable salad. The kids take the first bite of the food, and following them, the parents dig in as well. They all find Takeru's cooking delicious, especially the merchant, who low-key wants to divorce his wife now and make Takeru his new housewife. Takeru laughs it off, thinking the old man is exaggerating, but it seems that for some weird reason, his cooking has a special touch to it. After dinner, the merchant brings out his guitar and plays a song for everyone while his wife, with her sweet voice, sings along. Their children have the time of their lives dancing and vibing, and Black enjoys the moment with them too. The kids force Takeru to dance with them, and spending such a happy time with these strangers makes Takeru realize something important. Nights like this are 1,000 times better than eating alone in silence. Next early morning, Takeru begins his day by maintaining his tools, while the merchant and his wife get ready to depart for the village. After breakfast, they continue their journey, and before long, the group arrives on the outskirts of Tormi village. At the front gate, Takeru gets off the carriage and thanks the merchant and his family for letting him travel with them. The merchant also appreciates Takeru for being such a nice person and thanks him before heading to their home deep inside the village. The gate guard approaches and tells Takeru that this family only comes to the village during spring and stays in cities during winter. Takeru wonders why, and the guard explains that the merchant makes a living by selling knitted materials in other regions. Takeru recalls how sad the merchant looked most of the time and assumes that business this season wasn't good. At least he's glad that he can gather materials with his cheat skill and admits that he's indeed God's blessed. Anyway, Takeru heads to the collector Jerome's shop to sell the materials he's gathered along with the mithril ore Jerome requested him to collect. Jerome takes a serious look at the mithril ore, and after a lot of hemming and hawing, he exhales and gives Takeru the great news that this mithril ore is actually mithril magic ore. Takeru already knows that because he intentionally mixed mithril magic ore with the mithril ore in the first place, but he acts surprised anyway. Jerome asks Takeru how he got his hands on such a treasure, mentioning that this ore is actually a legendary grade object. Learning this really shocks Takeru, making him realize how broken his skills are. He gets even more surprised when he learns that the amount of ore he's collected is enough to give him more power than all the magic stones this country possesses combined. This is a rather serious matter, so Takeru claims to be lucky this time, but Jerome believes otherwise. Jerome is certain that Takeru is an exceptionally talented, prodigy-level material gatherer, but what he finds strange is how much Takeru lacks in common sense. Wishing him well, Jerome advises Takeru to go to Belkaim City, assuring him that if he goes there, he'll be able to obtain all kinds of valuable information. Jerome believes that it will be a lot easier for a man of Takeru's caliber to become successful and famous. Takeru thinks for a second before agreeing to Jerome's proposition. Later that night, Takeru is back at his inn, reading an encyclopedia. Apparently, he doesn't know what an adventurer's guild is, so he's trying to find details about these guilds in that book. After thoroughly reading the encyclopedia's contents, Takeru decides to join the Adventurers Guild and become an adventurer officially, because this way, he can make money while traveling this beautiful isekai world at the same time. He gets pumped up to go to Belkaim, but he's not in a rush, as he wants to do a few more things in this village. The first thing next morning, he has a butcher chop up the meat from the monsters he subjugated back in the forest With these materials, he throws a feast at night for the villagers. The next day, he goes out to collect more herbs in the wilderness and makes up his mind to leave the village the following day. He visits a lady's shop to buy some seasonings, and when she learns that he's planning to leave, she becomes sad and assures him that all the other villagers will be sad too and will miss him dearly. She knows she can't force him to stay, so she wishes him the best on his journey and packs a lot of her homemade food rations, since it apparently takes almost a month to reach Belkaim. Although the relationship between Takeru and the villagers hasn't been explored much, it's evident that everyone already adores him. Back at his inn, Takeru reveals that he still has the mithril ore with him, stating that Jerome didn't buy it from him. Takeru wonders what he should do with it. Black goes into deep thought as well, but this is too complex of a topic for the tiny dragon, so it chooses to sleep instead. Takeru keeps thinking and decides to use this invaluable item to make something useful for the villagers since they have done so much for him. He comes up with an idea to use magic to infuse the mithril ore with an oil lamp, and on his very first try, he successfully makes the item. Later in the early morning, the villagers gather in front of the gate to bid farewell to Takeru. They offer him their well wishes and prayers, and Takeru thanks them for being so kind to him. He brings out the magic item he made and hands it to the guard, stating that this magic item will envelop the village in a barrier that will prevent people with ill intentions from entering. The idea came from when Takeru saw the magic bell in the merchant family's possession. This is a great magical artifact, so the villagers hesitate to take it for free, but Takeru insists, saying that this place is his home, and he wants the people here to be safe until he returns one day in the future. In any case, Takeru doesn't stay another second, as everyone's getting emotional, and he literally dashes away from the village along with his companion Black. As they journey to Belkaim together, he can't help but notice how peaceful and calm the road is. Well, I guess he's the one who jinxed the situation, because just as he mentions it, he sees a giant creature in front of him. Without fear, he uses his scan to check what the creature is, and realizes it's a giant crab. When he looks at the scan result again, he sees that the creature is edible, and that only gets him more excited. He hardens himself, ready to attack the creature, but before he launches his strike, Black attacks first. Black flies high and releases an echo so loud it bursts into the crab's ears, killing it instantly. Takeru is shocked. He didn't know Black had that kind of skill. Just as he prepares to take the creature, several more crabs crawl out from the distance. He assumes it'll be easy since crabs only move sideways. To his shock, these ones charge straight toward him. Luckily, Black grabs him in time and flies upward as the crabs crash into each other. Two of the crabs die from the collision, and he sets out to kill the last one. Using his stick, he delivers the final blow. They pack up the crabs and prepare to cook. He sets up firewood, brings out his gigantic pot, and hardens his hand into a knife to cut the crab. Soon, the meal is ready. They both take a bite, and the taste amazes them. Smiling at Black, Takeru reassures him that they'll keep traveling together, hunting strange creatures and enjoying good meals. They renew their bond with a joyful hit of their hands. After several days of traveling, they finally spot a giant wall in the distance. Their destination, the great kingdom of Belkaim. The wall is so tall it's almost impossible to climb, and Takeru is amazed by the sight. The Belkaim city is known as the City of Commerce in the Alzerio Kingdom. It started as a small gathering place for adventurers, but has now grown into a mid-sized city filled with experienced fighters. He checks his scan and discovers that Belkaim has the biggest adventurers guild in the kingdom, which excites him even more. As he gets closer to the wall, he notices a long queue. Everyone's being scanned before entering the city. He joins the line and observes that others are carrying normal bags. So he uses magic to disguise his bag as one too. When it's his turn, he hides Black inside the bag and steps into the hall. The guard inspects his bag but finds nothing suspicious. The guard asks his occupation, and he replies that he's a gatherer. The guard assumes he's here to sell his goods, but Takeru explains that he wants to join the guild. Regardless of his goal, the guard still has to use an avel on him, an item that reveals a person's intentions and mindset to ensure sure the city stays safe. The guard scans him and sees that Takeru isn't a threat. Curious, Takeru wonders what people actually see when they check his stats. He scans the aval and realizes his own stats look average. He even appears as blue. He's relieved that the divine skills the gods gave him don't show up to human eyes. However, the guard notices something unusual, the dragon's blessing, and asks about it. Takeru releases Black, explaining that he's his pet, a gift from the dragon. The guard doesn't find a problem with that, but asks if there's any mark showing Black truly belongs to him. Takeru uses a bangle he once received from the kids in the city as proof. The guard nods, but says he'll still inform the mayor about a dragon's presence. That's fine by Takeru. The guard then gives him directions to the guild. Stepping outside, Takeru's eyes widen at the lively scene before him, the bubbling streets of Belkaim. He looks around until he spots a large rectangular building, the guild. Inside, he looks lost until a lady named Ariana approaches to welcome him. She introduces him to the guild, explaining he can trade items or interact with others. But Takeru tells her he's here to register as an adventurer. Ariana, the receptionist, sits him down and brings out the registration form. Though he can read and speak the local language, he's unsure if he can write it. Luckily, when he writes in his own language, the words automatically transform into Belkaim's script, something that excites him. In his form, he writes that he's a gatherer who wishes to become an adventurer. Ariana asks if he's ever fought before, and he lists the creatures he's faced. To confirm, she asks for proof, so he brings out the giant crab he killed earlier. The sight terrifies Ariana, and she bolts, alerting the other adventurers. One of them scans Takeru to check if he's dangerous. The man explains that Takeru shows as blue, meaning harmless. Takeru asks what that means, and the man clarifies that blue indicates safety according to the aval's reading. Assuming Takeru wants to sell the crab shells, the man tells Ariana to resume, but Takeru explains that he's registering as an adventurer and plans to eat the crab. Everyone looks shocked. They didn't even know crabs were edible. That alone tells them how strong he must be. When asked if he came with someone, Takeru introduces Black. Seeing someone with a dragon as a pet stuns everyone further. One man even invites him to join his party, but Takeru ignores him. He's just glad he's made an impression in the city and believes he'll do great here. When his registration is complete, Ariana hands him his tag, a rank F adventurer's badge. He wears it proudly, noticing it looks just like the bangle on Black's wrist. Together, they bump their tags and smile, excited for whatever adventures await them in the bustling city of Belkaim. Sometime later, Takeru manages to find the family of the rotting warrior corpse he discovered back when he was in the woods near Tormi village. He hands over the warrior's belongings to the family, and as they stare at the items, they can't help but cry since this is all news to them. Takeru notices that the entire family looks malnourished and sick, and recalls what he learned from the guard. Earlier, when he entered the city, he had inquired about the warrior, knowing his name, Belria Fend, from the letter he found in his belongings, and learned from the guard that Belria apparently took a quest to buy medicine for his father, but never returned. Takeru guesses that poor Belria unfortunately died during that quest. He feels sorry for Belria's family and wants to do something for them. After helping them out, he heads to the Adventurers Guild and trades a bunch of herbs with a foxman. When the guild receptionist Ariana comes over, eavesdropping on them, the foxman notices her bunny ears poking out from behind the wall, so he directly asks her if something's the matter. She comes out hesitantly and explains that she's received a stack of guild commissions requested by clients who specifically want Takeru to take the jobs, showing that in this short amount of time, he's already made a huge reputation around town. Takeru isn't sure if he'll be able to complete all of the commissions by himself, but he still takes half of them and agrees to do them as soon as possible. After selling his gathered materials, he goes to the bathhouse for some self-healing time with Black and recalls his time here in Belkaim City. According to him, half a month has already passed and everything is sailing pretty smoothly. He remembers the first time he came to this public bath. The water was absolutely disgusting, but he instantly cleansed both the pool and the water flow using his cleansing magic. Thanks to that, he can now come here and wash wash away his fatigue every day. A beast man named Clay shows up and confronts Takeru, saying he's heard rumors around town that Takeru can use great healing magic. Takeru asks Clay to elaborate, and Clay explains that people have been saying Takeru healed a terminally ill person from the slums using magic. This is actually true, as it's revealed that Takeru did in fact use healing magic to heal Belria's father and the entire family, making them look lively again. Takeru admits to Clay that he can use healing magic, but doesn't consider it a big deal. Clay then asks if Takeru took any payment from Belria's father, and after learning that he gave them free treatment, Clay finds it hysterical that such a kind man exists in this world. He moves on and advises Takeru to upgrade his adventurer rank, saying it's the only way he'll be able to take on more difficult quests and earn more money. Takeru, however, says he's more than happy with his current rank, showing that he has no greed at all. Clay finds this concerning and warns Takeru that being too noble will make him stand out. A few days later, Takeru follows his usual routine and is at the Adventurers Guild to trade the materials he's gathered. The Foxman literally begs Takeru to raise his rank, advising him that someone of his caliber should take higher-level quests. But Takeru clarifies again that he's just not interested and wants a peaceful life. Speaking of which, a horde of goblins suddenly rushes toward the city out of nowhere. All of the adventurers from rank D are gathered to prepare for defense, but Takeru tries to quietly walk away since he's only rank F. Before he can get out of sight though, the guild master Rodor drags him along, knowing how strong he really is. Rodor's plan is to stop all the goblins before they can cross the nearby river, and he pumps up all the adventurers' morale with an attack on Titan Commander Irwin-level speech. Shortly after, the adventurers head to the battlefield and set up base camp on top of a mountain peak to keep watch in all directions. Many adventurers have already gone to the front lines, but Takeru has stayed behind since he's a total beta loser. Muselli has tagged along with Takeru and keeps holding on to him tightly, scared out of her mind at the wildlife around them. Takeru notices her shaking in fear, so he tries to calm her down, telling her she has a big role here. Apparently, she's a healer, so he tells her to use her magic to heal the wounded during the battle. He tells her that there's no shame in being afraid of the unknown, but as people, they must face their fears and stand up to the unknown in order to survive. Takeru's words lift Muselli's spirits, and she becomes more determined than ever to act as a healing nurse in the upcoming battle. Clay is there at the base too, and seeing him, Takeru asks why a warrior like him hasn't gone to the front lines. Clay explains that he has a huge scar on his back, and in this world, a warrior's scar is their greatest shame, as it indicates the wound was taken while running away from the enemy. Takeru doesn't agree, saying there can be many other reasons, and it's shown that Clay actually got that wound while trying to protect someone. In any case, Takeru believes what's most important is that Clay is still alive after taking such a heavy injury, and Clay laughs self-deprecatingly, saying he wishes the rest of the world thought like Takeru. Suddenly, an emergency alarm blares from the front lines, and the pattern indicates that the goblins have broken through and are now heading toward Takeru's position. It's time for Clay to shine, so he bids Takeru farewell and rushes off to the front lines. Just as Clay leaves him, he looks to his side and sees Muselli trying to heal an injured warrior. He watches as she encourages him that he is doing well and should stay strong. Takeru is shocked to see Muselli that confident, considering the fact that some minutes ago, Muselli was quite scared and she was hiding behind him. Her strength makes him feel very strengthened, and the grace to do more makes him better. He activates a magic shield and a magic barrier. Just as the barrier covers them, he tells them to take care of themselves, pending when he will return with Clay, then brings out a stick, then he leaves. As he gets to the field, he enhances his legs and hands and hits some of the goblins that are on the way. He sees that several other goblins have surrounded the team, so he goes to join them. The team finds it difficult to survive, so he asks Black to help. Just as Black uses the attack, the goblins die. He meets the others and asks what had happened. They reveal that they were attacked by a higher class of goblin, especially the goblin sergeant. As a result, their front line of defense got destroyed, and they had to fight back. The goblins would have invaded the kingdom if not for Clay, who had helped their defense. Unfortunately, they revealed to him that they had lost Clay on their way in the fight, and they don't know where he is. Takeru feels concerned because, at this point, Clay is just fighting alone, so he sets out to find him. Just as he has predicted, Clay is actually fighting alone. Takeru arrives right in time and attacks the goblins. This gives Clay a little breathing space, but Clay asks why Takeru had come. He is of the opinion that Takeru is too weak to be there, but Takeru believes Clay is too injured to fight. He begs Clay that they should leave, but Clay wouldn't let his people down that easily. He insists that if he leaves, the monsters will attack the city. He asks Takeru to leave and tells him that no matter how much he runs, the goblin sergeant will surely catch up to him and attack them, so Clay offers to stay. Takeru watches as Clay struggles to fight. He knows Clay is injured and he feels bothered. He wants to heal the whole of Clay, but it will also mean healing the injuries behind Clay's back. So he asks Clay if the injuries have any meaning and if they are there for a reason. Clay reveals the injury has no substance. It is just a proof of his stupidity. Seeing that it has no use, Takeru asks Black to help with the monsters and slow them down. Then he takes out the water magic element in his bag and pours it on Clay to completely rejuvenate his body. Clay looks like he doesn't understand what he is doing. He feels so strong and he has fire in him. He turns and looks at Takeru, asking Takeru what he has done to him. Takeru finds it impossible to tell him the truth, so he just says that he healed him. Well, what Clay feels is so much more than healing. However, what they are faced with is more important, so Clay faces the fight. With the newfound energy, Clay goes into a great form, and with his claws, he breaks the goblins into two, and they win. As Clay keeps fighting, one of the other adventurers who watched what Takeru has done comes to meet him. He asks what Takeru had done to Clay, and again, Takeru undermines his work and claims he only did minor healing. The adventurer doesn't believe him. He asks him who he is, and Takeru claims he is just an F-ranked adventurer who just wants to help them. The adventurer doesn't believe him and feels very suspicious. However, since Takeru had helped them a lot that day, he can't show doubts, so he decides to accept what Takeru has said. He appreciates Takeru for saving them that day and tells him the guild will do their best in rewarding him. Takeru returns to his lodge and assumes that things are remaining the same. However, his peace gets disturbed again when Clay fully recovers and comes to meet him. Clay also knows that what Takeru had done to him isn't normal, so he asks Takeru what Takeru had used on him. Trying to defend himself, Takeru says he healed him with a water element. He reveals where he had gotten the water from and tells him it is from the ancient dragon. He also tells Clay about the dragon that is Black's mother. Clay believes him and asks why Takeru had used that kind of great element on him. Takeru doesn't think that is very important, although another reason why he doesn't care about the water is because he has a lot of it. Clay appreciates him for what he had done. Inquisitively, he asks who Takeru is and also where he is from, and Takeru is taken aback. He knows that he had been warned not to tell anyone about his source, but he also doesn't want people to start suspecting him. He lingers on the conversation so much that Clay notices his hesitation. Trying not to bother him, Clay tells him he doesn't have to talk and attempts to walk away, but Takeru claims he doesn't doubt Clay, so he will tell him. He tells Clay that he is from another world, just like when people die and they reincarnate. Just as you can assume, Clay doesn't believe Takeru. He admits it is a joke and shakes it off. Clay reveals that what Takeru had used on him was so great that he had changed into a dragonute. A dragonute is the ancient lineage of lizardmen, so when he changed into a dragonute, he felt an overflow of power that he couldn't comprehend. He almost felt he was going to go overboard and would do something bad. Regardless, he is very glad that he was able to get a feel of what it feels like to be an ancient dragonute. In a nonchalant manner, Takeru asks him if he is now back to normal. He claims yes, and Takeru advises him that he should get used to being in that kind of form so he can control his power better. Clay looks at him inquisitively, claiming that he is always so nonchalant with things, and that is something he had always wanted to tell him. Clay leaves him, and he goes outside into the city. He sees the bubbling city, and that is just how he can expect a city to be like. As he walks, he sees a weapon store store. He stops there because he wants to buy something. The owner of the store calls out to him from behind, and he turns excitedly. His adventure is going well, and he is also excited.